Good morning. My name is Jeff DeForrest, commonly known throughout my career as Defo, first four letters of my last name, and I am a sick, degenerate gambler. I don't know why, Mike. I saw your face. I thought I was at a GA meeting, not to
Yeah,
impugn the
should
integrity
be.
of people that are actually struggling with this, but
Yeah.
is it fair? I mean, when you have to put the preface of sick in front of, and this isn't a parenthetical, this is just like sick, degenerate gambler. What level of degeneracy do you have to be at to qualify to have that four letter word attached to every reference to the way that you like to approach life? Sick, degenerate gambler, right? I mean, I go back to I don't know. I mean, the neighborhood in Brooklyn where I grew up, we were gambling with virtually everything.
Hmm.
And then you would convince some kid that had 12 mint condition Mickey Mantle cards to go ahead and use them in a game of topsies, which was a way of exchanging cards via various
Hmm.
gambling competitions. And you would tell him that it took a real man to take those Mickey Mantles out because
Yeah.
anybody could throw a checklist or a couple of rookie cards up there, which we later would find out were of premium value also. I don't know how many Karl Yastrzemski rookie cards I had, but to be gambling those away, thinking that later on in life they would be worth like maybe $1,000 a copy in really good shape, even in crummy condition. I think my mother was getting 200-300 a pop. She made a living off my Karl Yastrzemski rookie cards, and I must have flipped away hundreds of them because it seemed like that was the first card in every pack. But those were the early origins, and then I had the incident, which I think I've mentioned to you, where I booked all the action against the Yankees in the 1960 World Series as a 9-year-old. And I was all the way on the Myrtle Avenue elevated train to the last stop. And the conductor said to me, "Son, are you lost?" And I said, "No, but I need to be." And then all of a sudden, I'm standing on the platform and I hear, "There's a long fly ball to deep left field, and Mazeroski has done it." And I was like, I'm saved.
You're
The
saying.
color returned to my face. I went back to the neighborhood, collected the dollar that was bet by the 10 various guys that we had booked the action for. And at $10 in 1960, you could
Carry a
almost
long
go out
way.
and think about putting a small down payment on a house. It
Yeah.
was great. How are you? How did you get involved in all of this stuff?
Just, I think it started for me probably the real success of gambling was the 86 Mets. I had a
Okay.
friend of mine. I had a friend of mine, and he and I were betting together, and he just was on fire this season. And you don't realize it, but when they win 108 games, you're going to win most of them. And he was lucky enough that when he didn't like them, they lost. So that's where where it started. And it rolled right into the Giants football season. And, it's kind of like I was familiar with the team back then and I felt like I had a little bit of an edge. So I had success. And then I've given back millions since then. So it's kind of like, you think you know and you don't know. I
Yeah.
always say this. I always say this. This is kind of when you watch the movie Two for the Money. I want to meet the guy who goes into the GA and says, I'm just winning so much. I can't take it anymore. It's killing my family. I'm just winning. It occupies all my time. Like, is it really Gambling Anonymous or Losers Anonymous? The guys who go there are the losers. So I think it should be LA, not GA. It's like no one has a gambling problem that wins. They have a gambling problem when they lose. So
You rarely see it. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Good for
just,
the money. One of the classics, right up there with the original version of The Gambler with James Caan. The Wahlberg rendition, as he did the sequel, was nowhere close to the
no.
drama and the impact that the original Gambler with James Caan had on my life, at least, my approach to the whole thing. But I do believe this, Mike Jones, and we're going to get into it because we have some tournament fever working. I'm Buddy Miles right now on the NBA. My mind keeps going through them changes because we know the NBA is a diehard chalk league. So I'm trying to get past Oklahoma City and Boston, who played last night, and Oklahoma City came up as predicted by the great Troy West yesterday on the program with an outright victory, covering the point spread and paying the people that were bold enough to go on the road on the money line with Oklahoma City. A very good road team, by the way.
Mhm.
So everybody's billing that as a preview of the NBA championship. I'm hoping it's somebody else.
Yeah.
But every time I start to embrace somebody, they get socked in the face.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, I hope the 3 knockdown rule is in effect because I can't sustain any more losses and remain faithful in this team that they're going to win it all. But that happened to me with Denver last night as
Mhm.
I was just starting to believe in them after that win over Oklahoma City and the way Jokic was playing. And they get hammered, shellacked at home by
Yeah.
the now surging Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah. And
That's been tough.
Minnesota's getting guys back now. DiVincenzo was out. Randall was out. Gobert was out. They had all their horses in. The line drops from 3 to 1.5 at tip. Why is Denver only laying 1.5 in Denver?
Yes.
And I looked, Aaron Gordon out, granted, tough player defensively, but Jokic was a little nicked. So I looked at it the game the other way. Like, I like what Minnesota's showing me. I think if you're going to look at a dark horse in the West, Minnesota could be that team that might shake out because the depth. They have good players that they got minutes during the injury break. And, so I think there's a chance for the T-Wolves. They're playing well right now, and you never know. I think you got to find that team that's not the chalk. I mean, everybody likes OKC, but are they battle tested? I love their team. Last night, winning a game without Jalen Williams, probably their second best player. They go into Boston and win. So it's going to be one of those tough playoffs. But yeah, there's some surprises. Again, we've been talking about the Sixers and the Suns. Both don't cover last night. Those are teams that I've been touting against as a bet against, just for expectation purposes, not being where they get. Like, the expectations at the beginning of the year was so much so that they should be contending for titles, that when you get that disappointment and veteran players, are they checked out a little bit mentally?
Towel is in. Yeah, no doubt. All right, if you guys are betting, and we'll have some selections coming up from Mike here. Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform. Your number one source, Mike Jones, for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. They have the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball, the NHL, which we don't want to forget about because you are Peter Puck, man. You've been awesome on your hockey picks. And UFC, a lot of boxing coming up, a lot of big-time boxing matches. I think they're going to Times Square. They're going to have a match outside there. And it may be a promotion of my buddy Brad Jacobs in Top Rank Boxing. So that's a new novel concept. I think it's unprecedented. And some pretty good fighters being showcased on that card. I don't know what kind of competition they're facing. From every three-pointer to hat trick, Bet Online has you covered. Odds, stats, just everything that you need for every game, every play, every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, so nobody likes to be known as Mr. Chalk. Is that a fair statement, Mike Jones?
Yeah.
That if you're in your circle of degenerate gambling friends and they sense that you're always touting and or playing the favorite, eventually they start to distance themselves from you and sort of, maybe get a little bit of a lose my number type of approach. So we're trying to beat the chalk. We were just talking about it in the NBA. College basketball, you get all of these offerings here from the one bid conferences, and we're seeing some of these tournaments come to their conclusion. We already have, I believe it might be 11 teams that are punched in for the NCAA tournament. You had a couple of more last night. I don't know what kind of shot they have. McNeese ends up getting in by winning their conference 2 years in a row now. This guy, Will Wade, came over to coach. He was the coach at LSU. They'd been to two previous NCAA tournaments in their history. The last one was over 20 years ago, and now they've made it back-to-back. So this is one of those stories that starts to emerge. If they win a game, you're going to see all of a sudden Will Wade be a hot commodity all around college basketball for when the coaching carousel opens up after the season. American gets in. I don't know anything about them. They beat Navy like a drum yesterday to win a Patriot Conference. I'm not assuming that they're going to make any noise. My team, Big Daddy Lipscomb, is in there, and so I have to pay them some respect. But the team that everybody's talking about on the sleeper slate so far is Drake. I don't know how you feel about that. Drake, 30-3. And their roster are all guys that were in college longer than John Blutarski. They have like 23, 24-year-old kids on their team. And you know how that was when you used to go down to the park. You were a college player, and the hotshot high school kids were on the court. And even if you didn't have as much individual talent, you just ran them out of the building because you knew how to play as a team.
Yeah.
Is that something that needs to be considered? Because the people that I've talked to, they all like Drake as their sleeper team, including the great coach Jim Larinaga, who had a magnificent run with two Final Fours of his own. So he knows sleepers.
Yeah, so the way I look at Drake is they're not a dark horse anymore. They've been having success there for a few years. And I think the odds makers are going to tell you exactly what they think of them. If they're the 3.5, 2.5 point underdog as an 8-9 seed, you'll know right away that they're liking what they see out of them. So I think the line could dictate where you think what will happen. Now, Granted, last few years, the favorites have held up. The higher seeded teams hasn't been really those dark horses that we always look for. But yeah, Drake could be a team that I don't think you're going to see 7-8 point dogs with them. I think you'll see, maybe three or less. But yeah, they could. They defend. They're well coached. They can. I watched them against Bradley. That line was only 4, and it looked like it was never in doubt. Throughout the game, and yeah, so it's Drake is a definite chance that someone's going to fall in love with and have a dark horse.
The desperate search, though, for the sleeper team and the teams that may pose a threat to some of the higher seeded heavyweights as early as the opening round. And it's, you'll see these teams, as was the case with Fairleigh Dickinson, go ahead and win a subsequent game.
Yeah,
like, wait a minute, man, they won 2 games here. You got to be kidding me. And those are always fun teams to follow, entertaining teams to follow. But what's your position? I mean, how thick is the brick wall of chalk in this year's NCAA tournament, in your opinion? Because when you're starting to scrounge around at the bottom here and make a case for Drake, are we ignoring what would be just seemingly insurmountable abundance of talent that is sitting there at the top? What with the likes of Duke and Auburn, the Florida Gators now in there, and Houston.
Yeah. My thought is this. In the last decade, you could watch that lines are coming lower and lower. I think the change is about to show because I think the NIL ruling and all that, the better players going to the better schools and playing and a little bit might change that a little bit where there might be an edge for the teams with the NIL money, the teams with the reputation that might, have a little bit of an edge there. So I think it is to watch. 10, 15 years ago when I used to love finding that plus 15 that would win on a money line, those games aren't, maybe 2 or 3 teams will get 15 or more points now in the tournament. It seems like less and less they shade the underdog. People like to bet that. People like the long shot. It gives a vibe for a tournament. I was telling someone the other day that one of the great things about the tournament is you have the 2 opposing teams that you're going to face in the stands. And if you have a 1 versus 16, you think you're at a home game for the 16th seed because they're the crowd gets right behind them. So I think that's part of the excitement, the adrenaline, and then the nerves, which I think is a big factor for the higher seeded teams, is now, can I lose? How do I face social media? How do I go back to campus? And I use this representation of Virginia getting beat as a 1 seed by Baltimore County, and next year they win the tournament. So, so it's kind of like that. That's why I think the underdogs are tough to find now, point-wise and betting-wise, because I think they're overshaded. We used to be a while that everybody would love the favorite. I think in the tournament, everybody seems to like the underdog, and hence the prices seem to get a little bit down. So, but I think the NIL will make it a little bit of an edge toward the higher seeded and the better teams, the higher reputation. I think you're seeing it in the SEC now, as competitive as those games were yesterday. Oklahoma needing a game. There could be 11 teams in the SEC getting in the tournament, which is a crazy number.
All right, we have a lot of basketball action today and other stuff taking shape that you can wager on all around the world of sports. Mike, you've been espousing and professing a theory here, which I think most people would embrace and say, yeah, that makes sense, where teams that need a couple of wins in their conference tournament, no matter how somewhat successful their season has been, they're sitting there, as you mentioned, on the bubble, and probably need to win 1 or 2 more games, and maybe against somebody significant, to qualify for the tournament, that they are definitively worth a shot in action. I don't know if you spotted any of those circumstances today, but I know you've been riding this like you were Lafitte Pink Guy trying to outduel the shoe in the big cap at Santa Anita on the inside with a left-handed whip. You've been riding this pretty competitively and successfully. So any of that, is that circumstance?
Yeah. Again, you look against the line move. So what seems to get faded now will be the team that has rest against the team that's playing the back-to-back. So let's go to the SEC and take a little hard look at Texas. Clearly a Joe Lunardi bubble team, still not in, getting 6.5 today against Texas A&M. Rivalry game, probably their big rival now in the SEC to relive that Texas A&M rivalry now. I kind of like my chances with Texas getting 6.5, maybe getting a cover. And if they get a win, they're probably going to be in. So that might be a game. I always love Buzz Williams coach teams. And I like Texas A&M a lot, but I'm just thinking because of the need for Texas today that they probably have a chance to keep it close there.
Texas A&M, I believe, and the professor very committed to the idea that they are his sleeper team to win
Yeah,
it all.
yeah,
That
it
if it's
can be.
a possibility to
Yeah.
kind of come from the outside or from way back and win it
Mhm.
all at a good price. I
Mhm.
don't know what their odds are off the top of my head, but I would imagine to win it all, you would have to
Oh,
think
50, 60 to
25,
1 probably.
30 to 1, somewhere in there. I
Yeah,
think
they'll
so.
probably be a 6 or 7 seed, probably, or 5 maybe at the highest. So, yeah, they would probably be in the 40, 50 to 1 range, I would think. You're going to get a
Interesting.
great
Mike
price.
Jones saying suspect today with Texas A&M is they may win the game, but they're not covering 6 and a hook.
Well,
So
I mean, I look at these desperate teams, and the freshman that Kid Johnson is the number one lead scorer. There's probably arguably one of the best young players in the country. That's what Jim Boeheim once told me. You get that stud, they can carry you. So now these kids seem to get up for all these certain games, and now it's prime time college basketball. These next 2 weeks are the next, I guess, 10 days are the most exciting time of the year for the college basketball. So let's see. I'll take my chances with Texas. With 6 and a hook today.
as irritable as Jim Boeheim tended to be, if it wasn't for Carmelo, would he be at some bridge somewhere over a creek in Syracuse contemplating jumping? Because he would have gone that whole time with all those great players that came through there and always competitive in the Big East and never won the national championship. If it wasn't for this one guy, the one stud
Yeah.
that he rode all the
Yeah.
way, not the
And
best of teams that he had. He had better
yeah,
teams overall, but won it
I,
with Carmelo.
I tell the story. I met him in '99 at a party in Tampa at the Final Four. And I asked him, would you rather recruit the 4-star, 3-star guy and have him for 4 years or that A player that is a one and done? And that was when it just started happening. The one and
Yeah.
dones were coming out. And he said, well, you make a good point that you want to have those kids around for 4 years. You can mold them into what you want. He goes, but when you get that star, he said it changes everything because it gives you a chance in every game and all the way down the line. And then sure enough, 3 years later, he does it with Carmelo. So I would always say that he knew what he was looking for at that time prior, that he was trying to tell me, yeah, it's nice, but you really need that A player. And look what happened. So, yeah, he might not be the coach he was without Carmelo, but he did pretty good. He got there in '87 against, when he had Ronnie
Got a
Cycli.
Keith Smart shot still.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Having gone to Syracuse, Mike, believe me, that still looms as a dagger right in my back.
right.
It looked like it was in the bag there, and then he started bricking free throws.
Yeah.
Sure enough, Indiana comes storming back, and then this guy hits a mid-range jumper of all things from
Mhm.
the left side, one of my favorite positions on the court. And swisheroo, and Indiana ends up winning the national championship that year. All right, so we're going to make Texas plus six and
Yeah.
a half one of your picks for
Mhm.
tonight. What
Yeah.
else are you looking at, Mike Jones, on the slate that people? I mean,
All right.
we
So
want people to make some money from the show today.
I'm gonna try to go with some teams here that I've liked all year. Like SMU had a big blowout win last night. A lot of points, laying 6.5 for Clemson. Just like what Clemson's doing. Think they should make the ACC final. I'll take a lay side here with Clemson laying the 6.5 in that game, and then I'm going to go over to the Big 12. I know this sounds crazy. I don't like laying 18 with anybody, but Colorado off 2 big wins in a row, playing their third game in 3 days, winning an overtime game, another steal yesterday over West Virginia. Houston's so good defensively. They're going to lock in today, and I think Houston blows out Colorado.
Laying 18.
Yeah, that's a dangerous, dangerous team because they're so good defensively. They lock down teams at 8 minutes at a time without a field goal, and I just think, like Colorado, like what they've done so far in the tournament, but this might be the plank for them.
All right, so we have Clemson getting points.
Yeah,
Houston
laying 6.5.
a bushel, a basket
Yeah,
full of points, a casket
yeah.
full of points, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Any other place from Mike Jones today?
Yeah, staying down in the SEC. Arkansas, another team that still looks like they were going through the motions in the second half yesterday. Mississippi, I've been down on most of the year. I think Cal gets it done today. A little upset, maybe even a money line play. Arkansas in the early 12 o'clock game against Mississippi plus the 4. Playing a little better now. I've just been down on Mississippi. I just don't see. I think they're a talented team, but I just don't think they've achieved what they should have. They're probably in the tournament. So Arkansas playing a little bit more closer to a bubble team. I think if they get a win, they're clearly in. So I'll take my chances on the early game today with Arkansas plus 4.
All right, there you go. Arkansas plus 4, and that's it. A 3-bagger for the fan.
Yeah. We're gonna stay with the college hoops today, and we'll get back in the NBA. I still give out all the pointers of. I'm gonna say it's gonna be tough for Philly, especially without Maxey and George. We know about Embiid for them. You just keep an eye on Philly as a bet against. I also, look at the Phoenix Suns last night. Why were they only getting 4.5 from the Rockets? And they didn't scare me off that game last night. So, and there's teams out there, that you're going to see that I think will the teams that are playing better are maybe the Minnesotas now. The teams that I think are fading are the Phoenixes and the Philadelphia 76ers. So I'll keep that.
Players that continue to amaze. Not just as a winning team, but a winning against the spread team. The Cavaliers have been dynamite all year long, and amazingly, I don't know. I haven't tracked their ATS lately, but I'm assuming with these double-digit victories that they're coming out okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, is that not sort of an anomaly there or a rarity where the best team would also be the best team against the spread?
It is, but I think what happens is you're laying so many points now, and I just wonder with the grind of the NBA schedule and the talk of load management, lowering the games, are these teams, out there worried about the playoffs, thinking what's ahead? I just think we're more title talk now than ever before. I think, 25, 30 years ago, you were happy to make the playoffs. You were happy just to be competitive. And now it's like you're molding your game around who you could play with to get to the right team to win a title. So I think Cleveland and Oklahoma City and the Celtics have all these aspirations that they're, the title teams, and you got to see if these backdoor covers can happen to you when you're laying double digits in these games. I just, in the NBA, it's just hard because all these guys can play. They're all decent players, and I look for teams like I did with Portland a while ago that look like they're down and out. Toronto's been very good against the number recently, winning last night without 3 of their main players, and they somehow take it to Philly and they're winning by 25 at one point, end up holding on by 7. And then you look at Phoenix. They had all 3 guys last night against a young Houston team, and they just don't play. But they played well on a Sunday and get a cover against the Mavs on a Sunday night. Sunday matinee at on ABC, and so they certain times they show up, but then it's just hard to figure out. But the NBA, I got guys that have been telling you that if you win in the NBA, you're better than most because it's a hard game to pick. And
flip-flops every day. I mean, your head is spinning like Linda Blair in The Exorcist there. Before you know it, you're spitting up pea soup at halftime, and then the team comes back and wins. It's crazy from quarter to quarter.
Yeah.
In the NBA. All right. I know you're a golfer. Did you ever play the Sawgrass TPC course in your lifetime? And how did you do on the island hole if you did?
I have not. I would hope I probably would try to avoid hitting 3 in the water on that hole. It's kind of a target thing. My ball moves around a little bit too much to have a little
that low line drive that you
that's not happening on that hole.
That's not going to stay on the green.
No, but friends of mine have played it and said it's a tremendous track. I've played a lot of great tracks. I haven't gotten there yet. Would like to. It's on the bucket list. And
now, are you like me playing the women's tees? No, you're an accomplished golfer.
Well, yeah, I'd say I wouldn't play the back tees where these guys are playing now because it's crazy. And if you get one of these young guys, and I play with a few of them that can really, really hit the ball, it's just remarkable. The fitness in golf. There's no more Tim Herons out there or Craig Stadlers out there. These kids are all in shape, and they worry about club head speed and all the technology. So when you see what these kids can do, I mean, you go up to the PGA. Yeah, when you go up to the PGA and watch the driving range for a while, or you go to Augusta in 2014, I stood on the range on Thursday morning for a couple hours while the thing was going on. It's just remarkable.
You wonder how they ever miss a shot.
Yeah,
when you watch them on the driving range.
Yeah,
and yet I'll never forget. I guess this was some kind of a marketing thing that was going on with Seve Ballesteros when he was playing at Doral. I used to go and do shows from the golf tournament there, and I'd go out and try and get some interviews with guys after they came off the driving range or the putting green. So I'm waiting. I'm thinking, well, I'll get a couple of words in with Sevy here, a superstar at the time, at the height of his game. So he's got a couple of guys standing around in suits and his caddy, and he's got the bags, 2 bags actually, by the tee box. And he takes out a driver and hits a ball, whoosh, perfect, like 350, drawing to the middle of the and the center of the driving range, perfect shot. Takes out another club and then hits a fade, perfect, just loops perfectly in line. Another 345 down the middle, and lands in a perfect spot. And after that, he starts cursing at these guys in the suits in Spanish, takes the driver and snaps it over his knee. And I'm thinking, who the hell could have been pissed off about those 2 shots? Nobody. So I guess they were trying to push him into trying some new clubs, and he wasn't satisfied. You wonder with this pinpoint accuracy that they have in practice how they would ever miss a shot. But that being said, Scotty Scheffler's going for the three-peat here. Now, I don't know who's booking this guy's bets, but a friend of mine texted me this morning after I saw Scotty Scheffler. I would never bet on Scheffler, even though he won 9 tournaments last year. There's no appeal in getting 3-1 on a golfer. I mean, and even if you had it, let's say you entered 27 events, you barely broke even for the money that you bet. Getting 3-1 on Scotty Scheffler with 9 wins. So it's foolish to go there, especially when as soon as you get past like the second or third guy, you're into major double digits. So
Right.
I don't know how you feel about this. I know you follow the game. Big, strapping, where is he from? Like Croatia, Sepp Straka.
Yeah. Austria.
55-1. He playing very well. He was in the money, and he was on the leaderboard flirting with, I don't know that he was going to win the thing, the Arnie Palmer last week, but I've been watching this guy. He might have had a couple of wins already earlier in the season. Sepp Straka.
Yeah, you got to go.
Does he have a shot there, or is it just for courses?
Yep, they all do. And, the young guy Highsmith wins down here at the PGA National. I mean, these kids are so good today that it's just the mental part of the game. When they get the lead, can they hold on? Can they block out all the things that they are? The vision of the PGA card for 3 years and the vision of playing the Masters, because that's what you do when you win a PGA event. So that's what you have to block out. And can these kids mentally do it? Are they reading right? That's the whole thing mentally. So that's the thing. So now my thought is this. So I played golf with a caddy on tour a few years ago, and we had this conversation. Brian Harmon, who won the British Open 2 years ago, has a lot of success out there. Loves the golf course, lives up there, plays it a lot. That's highly successful. So he might be a guy that you might want to put in a matchup or win or say makes the cut or makes a run at this thing. I know he's going to be a big number. So, guys, you find guys that play, these golf guys that are really sharp, always find the golf course that these players play right and check the numbers. But I know Brian Harmon's had a lot of success up there at Sawgrass. He would be a guy I would look at to take a long shot on that's probably in the 50 range. If I were to pick him.
Hasn't been overwhelming, though, with this guy.
No.
He's sort of tailed off and been very, very pedestrian. If even that, since that win at the British Open, just guy you got to root for. He looks like a caddy. He looks like some Irish caddy that just finished off a bunch of Guinness Stout and came out there and said, "Hey, why don't you as a driver?" And yet he does have a British Open win. We got to run, Mike. The big hunter. What's happening with that in No Filter?
Yeah, we're on Tuesdays at 10, talking a little Giant stuff. Made a couple free agent acquisitions. Still haven't found a quarterback. I know I'm kind of hoping, as crazy as it sounds, that we get a chance to take a little hard look at Aaron Rodgers. But we know we have Russell Wilson coming in for a meeting. If Cleveland lets him out the door tomorrow, he's coming into New York to talk. We just need to get a veteran guy in and then hopefully draft a player and then get 2 or 3 guys in the room and figure out what to do with that position. But we addressed our secondary. We got a linebacker, things that the Giants need. So, but we're behind the scene, we're behind the times. And nobody on all these shows thinks we're going to be any good. So no quarterback should come to New York because we're a mess. So that's what you're fighting. So you try to keep the spirits for the Big Blue.
All right. Sounds good. That's Tuesdays at 10 right here on No Filter. Mike Jones, the big gunner. Thanks, as always, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back with you.
Mike Jones with us here on Bury Your Bookie. That's going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, the professor, really red hot on college basketball. So he'll join us with some kind of insight into the conference tournament games that are on tap and maybe a little look ahead to the NCAA tournament. We'll see you tomorrow on the next edition. And thanks to the people at Bet Online, to my good friend Mike Jones and Greenlight Ventures and all the other people affiliated with NoFilter.net. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.